forget everything you know about the Tyrant King. While the T-Rex was still millions of years away from claiming the land, the throne of the world had already been taken. But this king didn't wear a crown of bone in the forest. He wore a crown of teeth in the freezing, pitch-black depths of the Jurassic Sea. We are talking about a bite force 4 times stronger than a T-Rex, a creature so massive it turned the ocean's greatest hunters into mere snacks. This is not a shark. This is not a whale. This is the ultimate biological executioner. Welcome to the reign of Predator X. 147 million years ago. The Arctic seas of Svalbard. This wasn't a tropical getaway. These were gray, turbulent waters, shrouded in mist and ice. Below the surface, the light of the sun dies quickly, leaving a world of eternal shadow. In this abyss, sound travels faster than sight. You don't see the killer. You feel the vibration of 10 tons of muscle moving through the water column. For a long time, we thought the land held the most dangerous monsters. We were wrong. The ocean had a secret buried in the permafrost, waiting to rewrite the history of power. Imagine a skull nearly 10 feet long. That is the size of a small car, filled with rows of 12-inch dagger-like teeth. This is Pliosaurus funkei. He is a short-necked pliosaur, but there is nothing short about his dominance. His body is a 40-foot torpedo of pure aggression, powered by 4 massive underwater wings, flippers the size of a human adult. Most marine reptiles use 2 flippers for cruising and 2 for steering. Predator X used all 4 for explosive acceleration. He could launch 10 tons of prehistoric fury at a target before they even registered a change in the current. In this world, the food chain was a vertical drop. At the bottom, the fish and the squid. In the middle, the long-necked plesiosaurs and the dolphin-like ichthyosaurs. And at the very top, in the coldest shadows, sat the Pliosaurus. He was a hyper-carnivore. He didn't just hunt for survival, he hunted to dominate. When he opened those jaws, the pressure was calculated at 33,000 pounds per square inch. That isn't just a bite. That is a structural failure of whatever is caught inside. Bone, shell, armor, it all shattered like glass under the weight of a falling mountain. But Predator X wasn't just a mindless brute. He was the shadow that haunted the migration routes. He would hang suspended in the dark, looking up at the silhouettes of other marine reptiles against the faint surface light. To him, a 15-foot ichthyosaur wasn't a rival. It was a calorie-dense prize. He was the reason the Jurassic Seas were a place of constant, silent terror. Every movement, every splash was an invitation for the shadow to rise. But what happens when the king encounters something even he cannot crush? How did a creature this powerful, this perfect, simply vanish from the fossil record? We have found the graveyard where the giants went to die, and the evidence suggests that even for Predator X, the ocean had a darker secret. In the next part, we decode the bite of God and witness the hunt that changed the Jurassic forever. Gravity is different underwater. But for the Pliosaurus funkei, the only law that mattered was the law of the jaw. To understand the bite of God, you have to look past the flesh and into the engineering of a nightmare. We are talking about a bite force of 15 tons. That is 33,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. To put that into perspective, that is 4 times the power of a T-Rex and 10 times the strength of any predator living in our oceans today. Look at the skull. It is a masterpiece of prehistoric structural engineering. Measuring nearly 10 feet long, it wasn't just big, it was reinforced. The back of the skull provided massive attachment points for muscles as thick as tree trunks. These were the motors that drove the jaws shut with the speed of a trap and the weight of a falling skyscraper. Most animals would shatter their own skull if they tried to bite this hard. But Predator X was built for the recoil. Its bone structure was dense, woven together to absorb the shockwaves of its own violence. And then there are the teeth. 12 inches of serrated trihedral bone. Unlike the conical teeth of a crocodile, these were designed with 3 sharp edges. They didn't just puncture, They sliced, gripped, and crushed simultaneously. When those teeth met the thick, leathery hide of a long-necked plesiosaur, it wasn't a struggle, it was a structural failure. Imagine the moment of impact. A 15-foot ichthyosaur is swimming, sensing a slight change in the current. Before its primitive brain can even register the shadow below, the jaws of Predator X close around its midsection. There is no shaking of the prey like a shark does. There is no need. The sheer pressure alone liquefies the internal organs and snaps the spine in a dozen places instantly. The water turns into a cloud of dark crimson, and in one clean movement, the king of the abyss swallows a creature the size of a modern great white shark, as if it were a mere sardine. Why did nature need this much power? In the Jurassic oceans, prey wasn't just soft meat. Many marine reptiles were armored with thick bone and tough scales. Predator X evolved this bite of God to bypass all defenses. Armor was irrelevant. Size was an illusion. If you were caught in that 10-foot circle of teeth, your story ended in a fraction of a second. But a weapon this powerful requires a massive amount of energy to fuel. To maintain a 15-ton bite, Predator X had to be a perfect athlete. You've seen the power of the jaw, but you haven't seen the speed of the hunter. How did a 10-ton monster move through the water with the grace of a bird? In our next part, we reveal the four-winged engine and witness a pursuit that no creature in the Jurassic could outrun. In the open ocean, power is useless if you are too slow to catch your prey. While the land predators of the Jurassic were limited by the friction of the Earth, the Pliosaurus funkei was refining a method of propulsion that would make a modern submarine look primitive. To move 10 tons of muscle at lethal speeds, nature didn't just give it flippers, it gave it an engine. Look at the silhouette of this monster. Unlike the dolphin-like ichthyosaurs or the long-necked plesiosaurs, Predator X possessed 4 massive, nearly identical flippers. Each one was over 3 meters long, the size of a small airplane wing, made of rigid bone and packed with dense, explosive muscle. Most marine reptiles use their front flippers for power and their back flippers for steering. But Predator X was different. It was a 4-wheel drive predator. Research suggests a revolutionary hunting style. Instead of a slow, steady cruise, Predator X used all 4 flippers in a synchronized, powerful stroke. This created a massive amount of lift and thrust simultaneously. Imagine a bird flying underwater, but a bird that weighs as much as 2 elephants. This 4-winged engine allowed for explosive bursts of acceleration, launching this 10-ton titan from the shadows to a lethal strike speed in just a few heartbeats. This was the ultimate ambush predator. It would hang suspended in the twilight zone, where the blue of the surface fades into the black of the abyss. It used its 4 flippers to hover silently, making almost no vibration in the water. It would wait for a shadow to pass overhead, a pod of ichthyosaurs or a stray plesiosaur. Then, with a single, violent stroke of all 4 wings, it would ignite its engine. It didn't just swim toward its prey, it launched like a torpedo. But this engine had a cost. Moving this much mass at such high speeds burned a staggering amount of energy. Predator X couldn't afford to miss. Every hunt was a high-stakes gamble. If the bite of God failed to connect, the energy spent in the chase could leave the king vulnerable. This was a predator built for the one-hit kill. A specialized executioner that traded endurance for absolute, overwhelming force. This combination of a 15-ton bite and a 4-wing engine made it the most efficient killing machine in the Jurassic seas. For millions of years, nothing could challenge its throne. But even the perfect engine can be halted. What happens when the world changes and the abyss begins to shrink? In our final act, we witness the fall of the shadow and the rise of a new era. Nature doesn't care about your power. It doesn't care how hard you bite or how fast you swim. Perfection is a trap. For millions of years, the Pliosaurus funkei was the answer to every question the ocean asked. But at the end of the Jurassic, the ocean began to ask different questions. The shadow that ruled the abyss was about to be erased, not by a bigger predator, but by a changing world. To understand the fall, you have to look at the cost of being a god. A 10-ton body and a 15-ton bite require a massive constant influx of calories. Predator X was a high-performance machine, and like any specialized machine, it required a very specific fuel: giant prey. But the Earth was shifting. Plate tectonics were opening new seaways and closing old ones. The warm, stable currents of the Jurassic were being disrupted by cold, unpredictable flows from the poles. The ecosystem was fracturing. The great long-necked plesiosaurs, the primary food source for the king, started to dwindle. As the waters cooled, the prey became smaller, faster, and more dispersed. For a 10-ton plesiosaur, hunting a small fish is like a human trying to survive by eating single grains of rice. The energy spent on the four-winged engine was no longer returning a profit. The ultimate hunter was becoming too expensive for its own environment. Imagine the final hunt. The king is suspended in the dark, his massive frame shivering in the cooling Arctic water. He senses a movement, but it's not the heavy vibration of a titan. It's a fast, erratic pulse. He ignites his engine, launching his 10-ton bulk for one last strike. He misses. The prey is too small, too agile. The king drifts in the cold, his massive muscles burning with lactic acid, his energy reserves hitting zero. For the first time in 147 million years, the shadow is vulnerable. The end didn't come with a bang. It came with a long, slow silence. As the Jurassic transitioned into the Cretaceous, the plesiosaurs were replaced by a new generation of predators, the mosasaurs, who were leaner, more adaptable, and didn't require a bite of God to survive. The last Pliosaurus funkei died alone in the freezing depths, its massive skull sinking into the soft silt of the ocean floor, where it would be locked in ice for eons. Today, we find their remains in the permafrost of Svalbard, a cold, jagged reminder of a time when the ocean belonged to a monster. Predator X is no longer a shadow in the water. It is a ghost in the stone. But don't think the abyss is empty. Nature always fills a vacuum. If you thought the bite of God was the limit of prehistoric terror, wait until you see what crawled out of the darkness to take the throne.